I pulled the trigger on our marriage right there in the middle of that godforsaken steakhouse. Not with a bullet, but with the kind of truth that shatters glass ceilings and egos alike, right after Jake's best man from the wedding, now his sleaziest broker buddy, leaned back and said, "Avery, honey, you're the punchline tonight." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just slid the black Amex across the table, the one in my name alone, and whispered, "Pay up,
boys.
This feast is on the disgrace." Jake's face twisted like he'd swallowed a bad oyster. His Armani tie suddenly too tight, because in that split second, he knew the bill wasn't just 10 grand. It was the down payment on his ruin. It started 6 months earlier, back when our life in the Upper East Side still smelled like fresh croissants from that overpriced French bakery on Madison Avenue and the faint promise of forever. Jake and I had been high school sweethearts in some forgettable suburb outside Philly, me, the straight-A girl with dreams of Broadway that fizzled into a steady job as a junior editor at a mid-tier publishing house. Him, the charming quarterback who parlayed his gridiron glory into a corner office at Goldman Sachs by age 32. We were the poster couple for that American grind, married at 25. No kids yet because timing, a brownstone we could barely afford on the edge of the good blocks. And weekends dodging his firm's networking events where the wives compared Lululemon hauls like it was the UN summit. But Jake? He was always chasing the next high score. "Babe, this deal's gonna set us up," he'd say, eyes gleaming like a kid unwrapping a Xbox on Christmas morning, while I'd nod from the kitchen island, chopping kale for our detox salads that neither of us ever finished. I loved him.
God help me.
Loved the way he'd pull me close after a 12-hour day, murmuring apologies into my hair about missing date night again. Loved the rare mornings when he'd brew that God-awful dark roast and we'd pretend we weren't just treading water in the rat race. The first crack showed up in the form of a text I wasn't supposed to see.
It was a Tuesday.
One of those gray February slogs where the Hudson River looks like it's auditioning for a noir film. I'd come home early from a meeting that got canceled, some author ghosting his deadline, and found Jake's phone buzzing on the charger like a trapped hornet. The screen lit up. "Hey, stud. Last night's magic still got me smiling. When's round 2? XO. Lena." Lena. His assistant. The one with the yoga-toned legs and the laugh that sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane. I didn't confront him. Not then. Instead, I filed it away, like one of those yellow post-its I stuck on manuscripts to flag plot holes. Because if I was going to play detective in my own damn marriage, I needed evidence that stuck. That night, he came home late, reeking of bourbon and that cheap Chanel knockoff she probably spritzed on like war paint. "Big client dinner," he said, pecking my cheek before vanishing into the shower. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, wondering how long I'd been the supporting actress in his blockbuster ego trip. By spring, the texts had evolved into hotel receipts I found crumpled in his suit pocket, the kind from boutique spots in Midtown that charged $800 a night for a view of the Chrysler Building and a minibar stocked with regret. I started tailing him after work, blending into the crowds like some budget Jessica Chastain in a spy thriller. One evening, I watched from across the street as he ducked into the Carlisle. Her arm looped through his like they were co-stars at the Met Gala. My stomach twisted, but it wasn't just jealousy. It was the math. Our joint account was dipping, rent hikes. That investment in his buddy's crypto scam he'd sworn was a sure thing. And me, I'd been dipping into my savings to cover the gaps, telling myself it was temporary. That love was the ultimate blue-chip stock. Then came the real gut punch. It was May. Cherry blossoms mocking us from Central Park as I sat in DR. Ellis's office downtown. The fertility specialist we'd been seeing on the sly because Jake wanted kids eventually, but mostly to shut up his mom's passive-aggressive brunches. "Avery," she said, her voice like velvet over gravel. "Your hormone levels are fine, but there's scar tissue from, well, you know." Yeah, I knew. The accident 5 years back, when Jake's truck hydroplaned on a slick interstate outside Atlantic City during a boys' weekend. He'd walked away with a sprained ankle and a hero story about swerving to save his life.
Me?
I'd been riding shotgun, post-miscarriage scare from the stress of wedding planning, and the dashboard kiss left me with more than bruises. Endometriosis, they called it later. The kind that turns baby dreams into a crapshoot. But here's the part that festered like untreated road rash. Jake had been the one driving drunk. 3 beers too many at the casino. His buddies egging him on with shots of Patron. He'd admitted it to me in the ear, whispering through the morphine haze. "Don't tell.
Ave.
They'll fire me. Ruin everything." So I didn't. I spun the yarn for the cops, the insurance adjusters, even his firm, Black Ice. Pure bad luck. I took the hit, literally and figuratively, because that's what you do for the man you vowed to honor. Right? Or so I thought. Turns out, honor's just a 4-letter word for fool. That's summer. The lies piled up like unpaid parking tickets. Jake's promotions started smelling fishy, bonuses that didn't match his performance reviews. Whispers from my editor friend at the Wall Street Journal about insider trading probes circling his team. Lena wasn't just arm candy, she was his alibi, feeding him tips from her daddy's hedge fund connections. And me, I was the patsy, signing off on joint tax filings that buried the discrepancies. My name on the dotted line like a scarlet letter for suckers. By September, the brownstone felt like a stage set for a Greek tragedy, beautiful on the outside, rotting beams holding up the facade. I'd started sleeping on the couch, claiming deadlines, but really just needing space from his cologne-scented betrayals. One night, after he'd stumbled in from another client happy hour, I cornered him in the hallway. "Who's Lena?" I asked, voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel. He blinked, that boyish grin flickering like a faulty bulb.
What?
"Come on, Ave. It's nothing. Office flirt. You know how it is. Flirt, or the reason our savings are evaporating." I shoved the printouts at him, bank statements I'd screenshot from his phone while he snored off the scotch. His face hardened, the quarterback mask slipping to reveal the corner office shark. "You're paranoid. Always have been since the accident. Maybe if you'd gotten over that." "Gotten over what? You plowing into a guardrail because you couldn't keep it together? The one I covered for so you could play big shot." He laughed, a bark that echoed off the crown molding. "Covered? You think that makes you a saint? That scar tissue's on you. Avery. Your body's the problem, not mine. Hell, if you'd popped out a kid like a normal wife, maybe I'd stick around more." The words landed like a sucker punch. But I didn't crumple. I straightened, tasting bile and something sharper, resolve. "Normal wife? The one footing your bar tabs and your mistress's Ubers? Fine. Be that guy." He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the neighbors' wind chimes. I didn't chase him. Instead, I poured a glass of the Cabernet we'd saved for anniversaries and started Googling divorce attorneys, asset freezes, whistleblower hotlines. Revenge wasn't a plan yet. It was a spark in a powder keg. The invitation came 2 weeks later, gold embossed like a summons from Hades. Jake's 35th, the Feast of the Fallen Kings. Black tie. No excuses. It was his firm's holiday blowout, rebranded as his personal bacchanal at Delmonico's. That old-school chop house where Teddy Roosevelt once brokered deals over porterhouse. His buddies, the brokers, the traders, the lean-adjacent arm pieces, would be there, toasting his unstoppable ascent.
And me?
The dutiful wife, expected to smile through the caviar and the cuts. I RSVP'd yes. Not because I wanted to play the martyr, but because that's where I'd light the fuse. The night arrived like a storm front rolling in off the Atlantic, crisp December air nipping at my Louboutins as I stepped out of the Uber onto Beaver Street. The restaurant's facade glowed like a jewel box, gas lamps flickering against the brick. But inside, it was a den of wolves in bespoke wool. Jake held court at the head table, surrounded by his pack, Tommy the tipster with his Rolex that screamed compensating, Becca the bottle blonde who'd accidentally forwarded me a dick pic last month. And of course, Lena, perched on his left like a vulture in Versace, her hand grazing his knee under the white linen. I slid into my seat opposite him, the one they'd saved like an afterthought, and raised my champagne flute. To Jake, I said, voice honeyed with hemlock, may your empire rise as high as your regrets. The table chuckled, mistaking it for banter. Jake's eyes narrowed, but he clinked glasses, his smile a razor wire. The feast unfolded in obscene excess, oysters Rockefeller slick with butter, dry-aged ribeyes seared to perfection, truffle fries that cost more per pound than my monthly grocery budget. They ordered like kings sacking Rome, lobster thermidor for 8, magnums of Dom Perignon flowing like the East River at flood tide. Jake, ever the showman, regaled them with tales of his latest kill, a merger that had netted his firm millions, glossing over the SEC whispers I'd overheard at the last cocktail party. As the night wore on, the wine loosened tongues and inhibitions. Tommy slapped Jake on the back, slurring, man, you're living the dream. Hot assistant. Hot wife. Wait. Avery, you're the hot one too, right? Laughter rippled, but Lena's gaze on me was pure ice, like she knew I was the glitch in their matrix. Then Jake, 3 sheets to the wind and full of that false bravado men get when they're cornered by their own excess, leaned forward. His voice carried over the clink of silverware, drawing eyes from adjacent tables. Speaking of dreams, Avery here's been chasing hers. Thinks she's the next Nora Ephron or some shit. But let's be real, editing romance novels? That's not a career. It's a hobby for housewives who couldn't hack it. The table went quiet, then erupted in that awkward guffaw men used to mask discomfort. My cheeks burned, but not with shame, with the slow boil of a kettle about to scream. Lena tittered, her fingers tracing Jake's cufflink.
Oh.
Jake, you're terrible. Avery's so supportive. Supportive, he snorted, gesturing at the carnage of plates.
Yeah.
Like paying for the circus.
Babe.
You got the card, right? Firm's reimbursing. But you know, cash flow. I met his eyes. The ones I'd once drowned in at prom under disco lights. Reimbursing? Like the bonuses from that sure thing merger? The one built on Lena's daddy's inside track. The laughter died. Tommy shifted, Becca's fork hovered midair. Jake's jaw clenched, veins popping like fault lines. What the hell? Avery, this your idea of a toast? No, I said, pulling the Amex from my clutch, the one tied to my personal line. The one he'd maxed out last month on a weekend in the Hamptons with the team. I slapped it down beside the leather folder the waiter had just delivered. The total scrawled in red ink, $10,237.42. This is. Pay up.
Jake.
Your feast. Your disgrace. He stared, then barked a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. You're joking. Put it on the joint.
Ave.
Don't make a scene. Scene? Like calling your wife a failure in front of your fuck buddy brigade. The word fuck buddy hung there, profane and precise, slicing through the violin quartet in the corner. Gasps rippled. Lena's hand froze on his thigh. Jake surged up, chair scraping like nails on a chalkboard. You ungrateful bitch. After everything I've done. Everything. I stood too. Voice low but lethal. Like leaving me to lie for your drunk ass on I-95? Or bleeding our life dry for your side hustle with her? I jerked my chin at Lena, who blanched, her manicure suddenly fascinating. The table erupted, Tommy muttering woe. Drama, Becca whispering to her date, but Jake just sneered. That quarterback's swagger masking the panic. You think you're the victim? Look at you. Avery. Childless. Jobless in the real world. Clinging to grudges. You're the disgrace here. Pay the damn bill and go home. He grabbed his coat, the pack rising like lemmings, Lena clinging to his arm. They swept toward the exit, leaving me amid the debris of their gluttony, the waiter hovering awkwardly, the other diners craning necks like vultures at a kill. I didn't follow. I signed the slip with a flourish, the pen digging into the paper like a declaration of war. 10 grand down. But it was the opening salvo. As the door swung shut behind them, rain lashing the windows like applause, I felt it, the shift from broken to unbreakable. Jake thought he'd walked away clean. But in America, revenge isn't served cold. It's engineered, leveraged, and traded on the open market. And I was about to short his entire goddamn portfolio. The cab ride home was a blur of sodium lamps streaking past like accusations. The driver's radio droning some pundit ranting about Wall Street greed on the eve of the holidays. I tipped him double. Not out of generosity, but because my hands shook too much to count singles. Back in the brownstone, the silence hit like a freight train. No Jake thumping around the kitchen. No Lena's ghost in the guest room sheets. Just me, the cat who'd outstayed his welcome, and a bottle of Glenfiddich Jake kept for closing deals. I poured a finger, then two, and sank into the leather armchair that still held the imprint of his ass from 1,000 SportsCenter marathons. The bill's receipt burned in my pocket, but it was the words that echoed, "You're the disgrace." Not the infidelity. Not the finances, me. The woman who'd traded her spotlight for a shadow. Who'd swallowed secrets like bitter pills to keep the fairy tale intact. That night, as the scotch warmed my veins, I pulled out my laptop and started digging. Not the frantic Googling of a jilted wife, but the methodical unearthing of an editor spotting narrative flaws. Jake's empire had chinks, and I was about to pry them wide. First up, the cloud backups he'd never password protected because who hacks the husband? Emails from 2019, time-stamped post-accident, frantic threads with his broker bros about covering the DUI exposure by funneling hush money through offshore accounts. There it was, the seed of his ascent. That merger he'd bragged about tonight, built on pilfered data from Lena's father's firm. A classic pump and dump dressed up as innovation. And me, my signature on those joint filings had rubber-stamped the lot, making me complicit in the eyes of any forensic accountant. He'd used my loyalty like a get-out-of-jail-free card. Twice over. By dawn, I'd compiled a dossier, screenshots, transaction logs, even a voice memo from his phone where he coached Lena on plausible deniability for the feds. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a house of cards stacked on my spine. But revenge? In this city, it's not personal, it's professional. I needed a plan that'd bleed him slow. Make him question every reflection in his three-way mirror. Step 1. Lawyer up. Not some Park Avenue shark who'd nickel and dime the divorce, no. I wanted Elena Vasquez, the pitbull from Queens who'd made headlines dismantling a tech bro's crypto Ponzi last year. Her office smelled like empanadas and justice, and over coffee that tasted like motor oil. I laid it out. "Avery," she said, flipping through my printouts with nails like switchblades, "this is textbook securities fraud. You sign off on any of it. Enough to look dirty," I admitted, the weight of it settling like lead in my gut. She nodded. "No pity. Just pragmatism. We freeze assets, tip the SEC anonymously. But if you want real pain, destroy him." I cut in, the words tasting like ash and adrenaline. "Not just the money. The myth." Her smile was a crescent moon. "Then we go nuclear. Public records request on the accident. Unredact that police report. Leak the emails to his rivals. And the wife, she becomes the whistleblower. Hero or harpy? Depends on the spin."
Harpy.
The word stuck.
But I leaned in.
By week's end, Jake had served me papers, irreconcilable differences. My ass, filed from a hotel suite in Soho. Courtesy of Lena's corporate card. He didn't call, his lawyer did. A weaselly type named Hargrove who bleated about amicable settlements, over Zoom. I let Elena eviscerate him. Demands for the brownstone. Half his 401k. And a lien on his bonus until the feds cleared the air. "This is extortion," Hargrove sputtered. "It's equity," Elena shot back. "Tell your client, the disgrace is fighting fair." Word spread like wildfire in a dry season. By Black Friday, my inbox overflowed, tips from Jake's ex-colleagues. Blind items from page 6 hinting at troubled trader's marital meltdown. Tommy texted an apology emoji followed by a beer offer. I ghosted. Becca slid into my DMs with girl talk. Invites, I blocked. But Lena? She went radio silent, until a late-night knock echoed through the brownstone like a bad omen. I peered through the peephole, her drenched from the sleet. No makeup. Looking like a drowned prom queen. "Avery. Please." 5 minutes. Against every rom-com trope screaming, "Don't open that door."
I did.
She dripped onto the Persian rug, eyes red-rimmed. "He's losing it. The firm's auditing. Clients pulling out. He blames you, says you're framing him to cover your issues." "My issues?" I laughed, bitter as black coffee. Like the womb he weaponized. She flinched, hugging her trench coat like armor. "It wasn't just me. He promised marriage. Said you were done. Post-accident. That scar tissue? He called it karma for pushing him into that weekend."
Karma.
The word ignited something primal. A howl I'd bottled since the ER beeps. "Get out," I said, voice steel. Before I add accessory to the list. She left. But not before dropping the bomb. He's planning a countermove. Something big. To bury you both. The door clicked shut. And I bolted it. Heart hammering. What the hell did that mean? The next days blurred into a siege. Jake's social feeds, still public. The arrogant prick showed him at holiday galas. Arm around a new consultant with cheekbones like switchblades. But cracks showed, a LinkedIn update from his firm wishing him all the best in new ventures, code for your radioactive. I played my hand carefully. Elena's paralegal filed the records request, and a burner email to the journal's tip line attached the juiciest email chain. Anonymized but damning. Then, the holidays hit like a sucker punch. Christmas Eve. Alone with takeout lo mein and It's a Wonderful Life on mute. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Jake's voice. Slurred and seismic. Merry fucking Christmas.
Ave.
Enjoy your spotlight? I know what you did. That leak? Traced it to your IP. You stupid bitch. Ice water in my veins. Paranoid much? Maybe stop laundering through Cayman shells. He chuckled. Dark and distilled.
Oh.
It's bigger than that. Remember the accident? That dash cam footage the cops lost. I bought it back. Shows you grabbing the wheel, screaming like a banshee. Drunk. Avery. You were the one pounding shots that night, egging me on. I covered for you. The line went dead, and the world tilted.
Me?
Drunk? I'd been the designated driver. Stone cold sober except for that one mimosa at brunch. But doubt crept in, insidious as fog off the river. Had I? The pain meds post-miscarriage. The stress. Could I have blacked out a betrayal? New Year's dawned with a subpoena. Jake's team hauling me into deposition, armed with grainy footage time-stamped just right. There I was, hand on the wheel, mouth open in what looked like rage. Elena called it deepfake bullshit. But the optics?
Toxic.
Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Microphones thrusting like bayonets. Mrs. Harlan, did you sabotage your husband's career out of spite? I pushed through, chin up, but inside, fractured. That night, holed up in Elena's borrowed sublet in Brooklyn, brownstone frozen pending settlement, I scoured the footage frame by frame. Pixels lied, but motives didn't. Jake wasn't just defending, he was counterattacking, flipping the script to paint me as the villainous scorned. The twist? The file metadata traced to a server in his firm's IT basement. He'd fabricated it. But to prove it, I'd need access, risky, illegal, the kind of move that turned whistleblowers into felons. Screw it.
By Epiphany.
I was all in. I sweet-talked Tommy over reconciliation drinks at a dive in the village, flattery and free shots loosening his lips until he spilled. Jake's next Hail Mary, a black tie gala at the plaza, where he'd pitch investors on a Phoenix fund, laundering his sins into startup gold. He's got dirt on everyone, Tommy slurred. Even you.
Ave.
That footage? It's his ace. I left him with a tab and a tip. Run. Back home, my home now, I mapped the endgame. Not a scream in the night, but a symphony of falls. Hack the gala's AV system for a malfunction screening of the real dash cam, the unedited one I'd subpoenaed from Harrisburg. Showing Jake slurred one more for the road. Leak the deepfake source to a hacker collective Elena knew from her pro bono days. And the coup de grace. Confront him mid-pitch. Not with tears, but with the SEC agent I'd teed up via anonymous drop, waiting in the wings like a deus ex machina with a badge. It was risky, borderline extortion, ethically gray as a London fog. Would it make me the hero? Or just another casualty in the Colosseum? Hell, maybe both. But as I stared at the mirror, tracing the faint scar from that night 5 years gone, I saw not a disgrace, but a reckoning. Jake had built his throne on my bones. Time to topple it. Brick by bloody brick. The plaza loomed like a wedding cake gone wrong, guilt and grandeur, masking the rot beneath. I'd scored an invite through a favor from my publishing contact. A +1 to a mid-level editor who'd kill for the schmooze. Black gown. Updo tight as my resolve. I slipped in amid the first stoles and diamond studs. The air thick with cigar smoke and schadenfreude. Jake was center stage. Projector humming behind the dais. His pitch deck promising disruptive alpha in a post-crash world. Investors leaned in. Moths to his flame. Old money from Connecticut. Tech bros from Silicon Alley. All blind to the moths in his wallet. I hovered at the bar, nursing a seltzer, timing it like a bomb tech. Elena's hacker buddy pinged, AV compromised. Deepfake metadata routed to a whistle site. The SEC suit, Agent Ruiz. All no-nonsense Brooklyn, lurked by the coat check. Badge holstered, but eyes sharp. Lena was there too, in emerald silk that screamed trophy. Her arm linked with a venture capitalist who didn't know she was damaged goods. Then, the moment, Jake clicking to his finale slide, voice booming. Gentlemen and ladies, this fund isn't just capital. It's redemption. The projector flickered. Not his graph of projected yields, but grainy highway cam, taillights blurring, Jake's truck fishtailing, his laugh slurring over the engine roar. Fuck yeah. Ave, hold my beer, the crowd murmured, then gasped as the timestamp synced his blood alcohol .12. Per the embedded report. He froze. Mic feedback screeching like a dying cat. What the technical glitch? But I was already moving. Weaving through the stunned suits. Elena's voice in my earpiece. Ruiz is inbound. Hold. Jake, I called. Voice cutting the chaos like a stiletto. Heads turned, phones whipped out. He whirled. Face ashen under the spotlights. Avery? Get out. Security. Redemption? I echoed. Stepping onto the dais uninvited. The real dash cam looping on the screen behind us, me. Wide-eyed and pleading. Pull over. Jake. Please. No wheel grabbing. No banshee scream. Just truth. Unvarnished and viral. You leaked this, he hissed. Close enough I smelled his panic sweat mingling with brute. After I protected you? Protected? You framed me to save your skin. My voice carried. The room a powder keg. Investors shifted. Whispers swelling. Lena gaped from the front row, her facade cracking. He lunged, not a slap, but a grab for the mic, desperate to rewrite the reel. Lies. She's unstable, postpartum delusion, or whatever. The word detonated. Gasps. A woman's indignant, excuse me? Ruiz materialized. Badge flashing. Mr. Harlan? Securities and Exchange Commission. We need to talk. Now. Chaos bloomed. Flashes popping. A dowager fainting into her caviar. Jake bellowing denials as suits frog-marched him toward the service exit. I stood there. The projector now flipping to the deepfake side-by-side, his fabrication exposed in damning code. The crowd split, some applauding the takedown, others muttering about crazy exes and feminazi agendas. Lena cornered me by the grand staircase. Eyes wild. You ruined him.
Us.
Was it worth it? I met her gaze. The emerald silk wilting. Ask him that when the cuffs click. She slapped me sharp, stinging, then fled into the night, heels echoing like retreating gunfire. Security hustled me out a side door, but not before a journal reporter thrust a recorder. Mrs. Harlan. Motive? Revenge or justice? Both, I said, tasting blood from split lip. In America, they're the same currency. The fallout hit like a nor'easter. Headlines screaming, "Wall Street Wolf's wife topples throne," across the Post and the Times. My face pixelated but unmistakable on every morning commute feed. Jake's arrest made the evening news, cuffs glinting under flashbulbs as he snarled "no comment" outside the federal courthouse. Lena vanishing into witness protection like a bad plot twist in a Scorsese flick. The brownstones sold in escrow before the ink dried on the indictment, my half netting enough to buy a cozy walk-up in Cobble Hill, with a view of the bridge that whispered second acts on windy nights. But victory? It tasted like stale champagne. Fizzy at first, then flat. Elena threw a Justice Jubilee at her favorite taqueria, margaritas on tap. Piñatas stuffed with shredded SEC filings, but I nursed one drink, watching confetti swirl like the doubts I'd buried. Tommy reached out, sober and sheepish, offering dirt on Jake's offshore stash in exchange for immunity chit-chat. I passed it to Ruiz, who nodded like I'd handed him gold. This closes the circle. Harlan, you did good.
Good.
The word chafed. Nights blurred into therapy sessions with Dr. Patel, a noble shit shrink from Mumbai via Colombia who peeled back layers like an onion in a pressure cooker. Revenge reframed your pain. Avery, she'd say, her accent wrapping around the words like a sorry. But what now? The scar remains. The scar. Not just the physical one, faded to a silver whisper low on my belly, but the invisible webwork, trust torched, fertility a ghost at the feast. Post-gala, I'd ghosted dating apps, dodged my mother's grandbaby voicemails. Instead, I poured the rage into pages, a memoir pitch to my old house. Disgrace, a wife's ledger. They bit. Hard. 6 figures. Movie rights whispered. Suddenly, I was the voice, the scorned spouse schooling America on gaslighting and greed. Spring thawed the city, dogwoods blooming defiant in the parks. And with it came the trial. Federal court in Foley Square. A concrete cathedral where suits prayed to Lady Justice. I testified second day. Elena prepping me like a boxer shadow sparring. Short answers. No emotion. Let the docs damn him. The stand felt like a confessional booth gone wrong, wood polished to a sheen. Jake's eyes boring holes from the defense table. Gaunt in his off-the-rack blazer. His lawyer, a silver fox named Caldwell, circled like a hyena. Mrs. Harlan, isn't it true you harbored resentment over your infertility? That this whistleblowing was payback for a failed marriage? Objection, Elena barked. Speculation. Sustained. The judge, a steel-haired woman with Brooklyn in her vowels, eyed Caldwell like he'd tracked mud on her gavel. But the seed planted. Cross-examination dragged. My hysterical intervention at the plaza, the manipulated dash cam, even that mimosa 5 years back twisted into impaired judgment. Jake took the stand later, spinning yarns of my paranoia post-accident, painting me as Lady Macbeth in Lululemon. The jury, blue-collar mix from Queens and Staten Island, shifted, some nodding at his everyman charm, others rolling eyes at the crocodile tears. Then the twist, the one that turned the courtroom into a pressure cooker and me into a Rorschach test. Ruiz's team dropped the hammer, not just fraud, but coercion. Turns out, Jake hadn't just framed me with a deepfake, he dosed me that night on I-95. Toxicology from the ER, buried in the original report, showed traces of Ambien in my system. Slipped into my water bottle pre-drive. To relax you, babe, he'd confessed in a panic text to Tommy. uncovered in the server raid. She was nagging about the casino tab. One pill, and boom, passenger princess. The gallery gasped. I retched into a courthouse sink. Elena holding my hair. Betrayals second wave. Not just lies, but violation. My hand on the wheel, a reflex from the fog he'd forced. The miscarriage scare pre-crash, amplified by his chemistry set. Jake's face crumpled as the evidence mounted. Texts. Pharmacy logs. Even Lena's flip under immunity. He said it was harmless. A joke. Jury deliberations stretched 3 days. The city holding its breath like a gambler at Belmont. I holed up in the walk-up. Chain-smoking menthols on the fire escape. The bridge lights mocking my vigil. Calls poured in. Oprah's people for a special. A senator's aide sniffing ethics reform. But it was a voicemail from an unknown that gutted me. Soft.
Accented.
A nurse from the ER that night. Mrs. Harlan, this is about the accident. There was something else. A pregnancy test. Positive. You lost the baby that night. But they never told you protocol for head trauma. I'm sorry. The world grade. A baby? Ours? The hook I'd swallowed whole. Jake's karma jab. My barren blame, unraveled into his deliberate sabotage. I played it for Elena, who cursed in Spanish. Manslaughter angle. We amend. But the verdict dropped before appeals. Guilty on all counts, fraud, tampering, reckless endangerment. 20 years. Minimum. The judge intoning it like a death sentence sweetened with mercy. Jake's wail echoed as they let him out. Eyes locking on mine, not hate, but hollow. Lena skated, with probation. Her tearful allocution painting her as misled minion. The press split. Feminists crowning me avenger. Trad bros decrying witch hunt. Online? A war zone. Avery Avenger trending with disgrace divorce memes. Think pieces debating if I'd traded victimhood for villainy. Summer settled sticky and surreal. Book tour kicked off in Boston. A crowd split down the middle. Hugs from survivors. Heckles from his holdouts. One night in Chicago. Post-reading. A woman cornered me in the green room, mid-40s. Sharp suit. Eyes like chipped flint. You got your pound of flesh. Harlan. But what about the innocent? That kid you might have had. Jake's blood too. I froze. The ghost baby, a fresh wound. Innocent? He poisoned the crib before it existed. She shrugged, handing me a card. Victim's advocate. Harlan Family Trust. His mother's funding appeals. Says you're the monster who broke her boy. The card burned in my clutch all the way to LA, where the movie deal imploded, studio execs balking at unlikable lead.
DR.
Patel upped my sessions. Grief's nonlinear. Avery. You avenged the wife, now mourn the mother. By fall. The dust settled, or so I thought. A letter arrived, postmarked from Otisville. Jake's scrawl. Shaky as a drunk's promise. Ave, Avery. I was wrong. The pill was to shut you up. Yeah. But the rest? I loved you. Still do. The baby's on me, karma's a bitch. Forgive? Or finish me. Your call. I burned it on the fire escape. Ashes scattering like bad luck into the dusk. Forgiveness? A luxury for the unscathed. But finish? I'd already stripped his crown. What was left but echoes. The twist landed quiet. Insidious. A positive test stick 2 weeks later. From a one-night blur with a fellow author in Seattle. Tall. Bearded. The kind who quoted Neruda unironically. Viable.
DR.
Ellis confirmed. No scars barring the way. Irony or absolution? I didn't tell him yet. Tracing the curve in the mirror, wondering if this spark would flicker out or flare. Karma, Jake had sneered. Maybe. Or maybe grace. Unearned and American as apple pie with a side of grit. I named the manuscript Feast of Fools. Epilogue unwritten. Because, in the end, revenge didn't heal. It hollowed, leaving space for whatever came next. Hero? Harpy? Or just human? Picking bones from the platter, ready to dine alone. As winter nipped the skyline, I stood on the bridge walk, wind whipping my coat, the city a constellation of second chances. No tidy bows. No villains vanquished clean. Just me, the disgrace redeemed or redefined. And damn if it didn't feel like the hook of a new story, one worth the tell.